Hello comrades, Commissar Bro here today with a game called Oriental Empires. That's right. This game is currently in early access and is being developed by Shining Pixel Studios, published by Iceberg Interactive. That's right. Iceberg has been a very interesting developer, or excuse me, I guess a developer-publisher lately, because they've had quite a few interesting 4X games come out under their watch, most of which I have found to be very, very interesting. This particular game is also very, very interesting. It combines together a couple of different ideas of some other popular games like Civilization, Hegemony, Endless Legend, really, and so on and so forth, and strikes a nice balance between complexity and, I don't know, it's weird. It's cool, though. I've only been playing for about an hour or so. It's not really enough time to get really in-depth with the game, but from what I've seen so far, I can't help but to be pretty impressed, to say the least. So, with that in mind, let me try to explain a couple of different things about the game and how it works. So, first off, you're going to notice a lot of similarities between Civilization in this game. You're also probably going to start feeling a Total War vibe as we continue on. But let's start with our capital region. As you can see here, Sanqingdui is our capital. We are currently playing as the Shu. We've got 3 cities, Chengdu at the top left, Jinsha, and like I said, Sanqingdui. To our southeast, or at least southeast as far as I can tell, we have Viba with Jiangzhou, and Jianjiang and Yicheng and Zhi. So yeah, fun stuff, fun stuff. By the way, if you're Chinese and I pronunciate your word, I apologize ahead of time. I'm a little rusty on my Chinese. It's been about, I don't know, 6 years since I took a Chinese course, so yes, be mentally prepared for me to probably mess up and skewer your language. But with that said, let's take a look at the actual city here of Sanqingdui. So, when we click on the city, it takes us to this little screen right here. On this screen, we can build buildings, we can recruit units, and we can also build buildings outside of the settlement and so on and so forth. You can also allot land to be farmed, which essentially is pretty simple. All you do is you click here, and you convert plain land into farmland. From what I've seen so far, there doesn't seem to be any real negative effects of this. One thing I guess you should probably keep in mind is if you're building buildings, though, you need space to build it, which makes sense. So let's take a look at some of the buildings that I currently have, or at least I can build. As you can see here, I can build a foundry, I can build an armor, I can build a barracks, and I can build a siege granary. I've already built a boyer, a bazaar, a pottery workshop, I was going to say a poverty workshop, a granary, and of course the town itself. Now you get to upgrade your settlements as they get bigger and as you get better technological upgrades. You can provide defenses to them. Our capital city, as you can see, does not actually have any walls. We can zoom in on the city itself to see this. Yes, I really like that. But I'm not going to talk about the things I like yet. I'm going to just try to talk about some of the cool things about this game. Look at these little people working the farmland. Isn't that just precious? Anyway, if we take a look over here at Jinsha, we can definitely tell, though, that a palisade has been erected around the wall, around the city, with little towers where archers can fire out of. Yes, so it's pretty basic in terms of how the city building works. You've got buildings that you can build, and you've got armies you can recruit. You click the recruitment tab right here, and this is basically your limitation of who you can recruit and how many men you can have. As you can see here, I can have 1 nobles, I can have 4 militia, and 1 civilians. Nobles are kind of like your elite troops. It would make sense if you know a little bit about history that the rich generally were the best equipped. So it makes sense that in this case, if we click on the noble archers, they're going to be far more effective than militia light archers who are not going to be as equipped and not as well trained. On the other hand, I like this quote, "Quantity has its own quality," which is absolutely true. At the same time, though, in the early stages of the game, it's probably in your best interest to build the elite troops. They will give you a significant advantage over your burgeoning neighbors. But anyway, let's take a look at something else real quick. In this game, you've also got a diplomacy tab, technology tab, an edicts tab, a financial summary, a player status, and statistics. First off, let's take a look at the technology tab as it ties in to the actual city building portion of the game. If we take a look here, we have 4 different tabs: power, craft, thought, and knowledge. Each one of them giving passive and active bonuses to your civilization. From what I can see, there are 3 ages that this game plays through: the early Bronze Age, the Warring States era, and the Imperial era. The Warring States era, I'm assuming, is around 200 AD and above. So basically, you know, if you're looking at like the Three Kingdoms period and so on. And then you've got the Imperial era, which I imagine is a little bit later on in Chinese history, which would make sense considering we're starting to see trebuchets and Tiger's rocket launcher and thunderclap bombs and junk. So yes, and cannons. So definitely, I'm thinking this is probably like the 1500s or the 1400s, somewhere around there. And like I said, the Warring States period must be like the time period that exists between, like I said, 200 AD all the way up to about 1000 AD or so, I'm assuming. Again, my Chinese history is a bit rough or rusty, so don't expect me to know everything off the bat. Needless to say, if we take a look here, we've got a number of units that we can get from researching. For example, we can actually get chariots to fight in our battles. If we go over here to craft, it's a little bit more economic focus. Like, for example, this one, ceramic roof tiles, reduces siege damage from a fire, but also reduces the effects of earthquakes and other major events that might occur. And yes, so we've got a number of different things. This is also interesting, this little side tab here that pretty much shows what technologies off the other trees are prerequisites to technology on the main tree itself. I like that. That's a nice touch. It makes it very convenient so that I don't have to sit here and go through multiple menus to figure out what's needed for what. It just tells you right there, and you can pretty much just select it and so on. I like that. Like I said, it's a nice touch. You've also got thought, which is kind of more of a prestige type thing. It increases your authority and your culture and stuff like that. Knowledge is kind of a bit more, it's similar to, it's like a mixture of craft and power. Like I said, you can unlock new units down this line, so like heavy horse archers, but you also get some passive stuff. For example, this one, 10% of casualties suffered in a victorious battle are healed, so the hot cold theory. So, I like it. It's a pretty simple tech tree, and it works. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. I like that in a video game. So, we've taken a look at the Technology and Culture tab, so let's go ahead and take a look real quick at the Diplomacy tab. Just as a quick heads up, I am currently at war with the Ba, who attacked me most perfidously to the Jin Sha. We have managed to fight back against their forces, so basically they're not big fans of me. But if we take a look at the Diplomacy tab, we can see here that these are all the people we've met. I've only met the boss so far, and I can request an audience with them. It gives you some additional statistics down here, like what their power is in relation to yours, what their attitude is, and how long you've been at war, and stuff like that. So let's go take a look at this. This guy doesn't like me. Your presence is as welcome as toothache. Make your point quickly. So, to begin, I can most certainly try to get a peace arrangement. Now, I think I've beaten this guy pretty deftly, so to me it seems like he would be all for that. So let's see. If we say truce for 20 turns, This right here shows kind of the balance of the deal. Now, just because the deal is entirely in their favor, that does not mean they're going to accept it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Peace for 50 turns. Yeah, see, this is a pretty even deal, it would seem, but still, the chances of them accepting are probably not so great. Trust me, I've tried to do agreements with the Ba before we went to war, and they were not having it, even though it was completely in their favor. Maybe this shows that the AI is a bit smarter than your usual AI, because they pretty much didn't accept the deal because they were already set on a path of war against me. So, I mean, that would actually kind of make sense. But if that's really why it happened, I haven't played enough to figure that out yet. So, we're not really going to make peace with anybody, or are we? Let's go ahead and try to shoot for a truce for 20 turns and see what they do. Oh, they accept it. So let's go take a look at some other agreements and declarations we can make. If we go down here, we've got Recognize Emperor. Recognize their leader as the true Emperor and Son of Heaven. This is something of a diplomatic nicety, as it involves no particular obligations. However, you may only recognize one Emperor, and you will lose a little authority from relinquishing your own claim. Your population will count towards their Son of Heaven victory score. Interesting. You can become their vassal as well. You can sign a defensive alliance, and you can do a fraternal harmony. A fraternal harmony seeming to be kind of like a non-aggression pact. In this particular case, it doesn't seem like they're too keen on accepting it, but let's try proposing it anyway. Yes, it's about the same as what they told me before. We cannot agree to this. Well, thanks for your time, Mr. Leader of the Ball. One other thing that's probably important to mention about this game is that you actually do have leaders for your faction. In this particular case, my original leader died in battle against the Ba. Now, I still kind of kicked their ass, but they definitely beat him. So, we are now at truce with the Ba. But the way battles work out in this game is actually kind of interesting, in the sense of it's not necessarily real-time, but it's more of like a turn-based real-time kind of mix. Essentially what you do is you select your army, and it's made up of a composition of units you've pre-made before the battle, sort of like Total War, and you right-click on the general direction of the enemy or the tile that they're on. In this particular case, if we were still at war with the Ba, I would right-click here, and my forces would begin to engage all enemies within a certain area. And generally, they'll fight these units in a one-on-one basis. So, for example, if I have several enemies back here, like on this tile 2 tiles away, my dudes will engage these first rows, wipe out the first rows, and then move on to the rear row. It's actually kind of an interesting little mechanic in how that works. You've actually got formations as well, which you can see here. You have battle plans that you can make. Some of it's simple, like just attack, make a controlled attack using melee or missile as appropriate. You can do an all-out charge, preferring to just go straight for the melee attack and do as much damage as you can, assuming you don't have like ranged units. You've also got harass, inflict limited melee attacks. So you've got a couple of different battle plans that you can actually choose from that can make battles a tad more interesting. Some other stuff worth mentioning about Oriental Empires, aside from the basics, which I've gone over so far, is there's random encounters. If you take your units, for example, and you right-click on this area, you will have an encounter. So far, the only encounters I've really gotten have been like villagers selling me the location of an item or of resources. For example, as you see down here, I bought off a villager who gave me a map that revealed these horses down here. So yeah. So, now that I've pretty much explained the majority of the game, or at least the bare minimum basics of how the game works, how do I feel about it so far? I'm actually kind of impressed. First off, I heard about this game maybe once or twice. And to be fair, I did not expect much from it. I didn't expect it to be too much different than anything we've ever played before. But I gotta say, after even just an hour of playing this is a really cool game so far. Again, it's only been about an hour, and maybe I'll start finding some more kinks and things I'm not a big fan of. But if the Steam rating is anything to consider, this game is pretty damn fun, and a lot of people seem to agree with that idea. And I gotta say, from what I've played so far, it is pretty cool. I like it. So, by the way, this is how a turn plays out. You actually tell him the orders, and you press end turn, and then units will move. And I don't know why he's in my territory. I sure hope he's not about to break any rules whilst here, try to raid my territory. That would not be good for him. And as you can see, basically the time passes by a little bit and then the turn ends. So yes, I like this game. This is a really cool game. And it's only $23, $24 really, if you round up the cents. It's $24 right now. It's going to be a grand total of $30. You have quite a few factions to choose from. You unlock more factions as you play the game more. I actually wanted to play as the Qin dynasty. If you're familiar with, the first Chinese dynasty under Qin Shi Huang. And yeah, I thought that would be pretty cool, but yeah, unfortunately, you have to play a little bit ahead before you get that opportunity. And let's rotate that camera and just kind of look at my army. An early Bronze Age Chinese army. And the graphics aren't the best, but they're not that bad. And especially if you look at the amount of detail and structure of some of these units, I'm really liking the diversity. I am. We've got a headband on this guy. This dude's bald. This dude's got a hair, but he looks a little bit chubbier than the other guys. This dude looks a little older, but he's also bald. And there's height differences. I like that. That is some nice touch, especially the height difference. I really like that. There's a lot of really nice touches in this game. It's clearly not a big AAA title like they would want to do, I would imagine. But that does not change the fact that there's a lot of love that has been poured into this little game. You've got dudes every so often just sitting here tending the crops and seeding the fields. I'm digging it, man. I'm really, really digging it. I like this. This is a really cool game. So, if I had to give a first impressions recommendation for this game, I absolutely would. If you're a fan of 4X games, if you're a fan of grand strategy games, I imagine this game is going to be right up your alley. Give it a little bit of time. It's not too hard to learn. I mean, I pretty much learned what I was doing within about 30 minutes of playing the game. At this particular point in time, I'm just learning more and more as I go along. There's a couple things that do bother me, though. I don't really like this fog mist that covers the whole map. It's a little odd looking, especially when you zoom out. And there doesn't seem to be any map control options. So, like color map schemes or anything like that, which kinda sucks. But, I mean, at the same time, is not that big of a deal. It's just one of those things that's kind of a nice touch when you're playing grand strategy games nowadays. Maybe that's something they can just do. I feel like if they would just get rid of some of this white mist, it wouldn't be so abrasive. I can't really think of the word. Just very, very bothersome. Too much fog. Because you've got like the fog of war, which I get and I'm cool with. But then you have like another white, just snowy looking thing. Like, you see all that? It's just so weird. Because then you zoom in and it's like nice and green. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being nitpicky, but that just really bothers me for some particular reason. And maybe it's just this particular region of China. I am in the southwestern part of China, so maybe there's some sort of reason for that. I don't know. But anyway, again, I highly recommend Oriental Empires if you're a fan of strategy games, civilization, one more turn style games. This one definitely has an itch that needs to be scratched. And I'm digging it. I'm digging it a lot. You can get it right now on Steam, again, for $23.99. But anyway, this has been Commissar Bro. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And this last little bit is going to be for those who are wondering, where the fuck's the documentary? I know, I'm sorry. It takes a lot of time of which I haven't had. Hence why I'm doing this video right now, because this video does not take a lot of time to do. And it's just me playing a game and talking. So, yeah. But anyway, this has been Commissar Bro. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.